So excited that we had such a good turnout, y'all. We throw around different topics to talk about, and oftentimes they come from what you guys are talking to us about. So today we have quite a few people speaking, some resident experts talking about what should we learn next. You know, that's all everybody's talking about, I think, right now is what did you do during COVID? What are you doing while you're looking for a job? So we're here to give you some ideas. What should be the next thing that you should learn, specifically as it relates to IT? You may have other things you want to learn. I think on my eventual list is how to cook better, how to change my tire, you know, some of those good life skills. But today is specifically all about the tech. So to kick off, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are, ACDS. A lot of you guys probably already know us. You've probably already talked to us. I see a lot of great familiar faces, but to recap, we are a nonprofit and our goal is to get more people working in the state of Arkansas, really targeting IT careers. We want to get more people into IT, not just shifting people around from employer to employer across the state. And then we want to keep people in Arkansas. We don't want you to feel like you have to run away to get a new good IT opportunity. So we do that with lots of different employers across the state. Our talent acquisition team specifically, we work with you guys, we work with candidates, help train you, help talk resumes and interviewing and how to really get yourself ready to land that next opportunity or that first opportunity, whether it's in IT help desk or data analytics or programming, whatever cyber, whatever area of IT you might be interested in. So a couple faces today that you'll see. We have quite a few from our team on, names and faces hopefully you'll recognize. I'm Kristen again. I know a lot of you guys. I have been with the ACDS team since last November, but come from a coding background, was a math major that stumbled into IT. Definitely wasn't my original career choice. So a lot of you guys who might be sitting in that same seat, I can totally relate to that. I think my very first job, I sat next to a guy who had his master's in computer science, and I felt like we were speaking two different languages. I knew what a computer was, and I knew what software was, and I knew some languages, but didn't really know how they all worked. So totally have been in that situation and learned so much on the job training, and then after hours too. A lot of fun can happen in learning after hours, and was a programmer on the mainframe side and the web side for quite a few years before they decided I was good enough to teach it. So got to end up doing some corporate training and some fun web technologies and database technologies and that kind of stuff by the end of my corporate IT career. So there's me, there's a few creds, but to level up a little bit, we also have Dr. Don Walker. So Dr. Don, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, I don't know about leveling up, but I'm old. Hey guys, Don Walker. I've been in IT since I cross-trained out of electronics maintenance in the Air Force in 1988, and it's just been a fantastic ride. So I got in before most folks had a PC on their desktop. Did a lot of database development, software engineering. Made a shift over into telecommunications network management when the internet happened in the mid 90s, and a little bit of experience with higher education, adjunct faculty, and I joined the ACDS team coming over from the Arkansas Coding Academy at UCA. Was there for a couple of years, then I came over to ACDS in January of this year, and I helped line up training for our apprenticeship programs and other programs to get folks bootstrapped up into IT.
Sounds good. Some other friendly faces. Ashley French, you may recognize her. She'll jump in. Ashley, you want to give a quick intro? No? Okay, I'll intro. Ashley is our Director of Talent Management and Recruiting. So she has been in the corporate recruiting world for a long time, knows a lot of IT hiring managers, knows what you shouldn't have on a resume, shouldn't say in an interview. Lots of good coaching experience with candidates for a while. We've also got Lonnie Emmerd, our apprenticeship director, Jenny Sales on our talent acquisition team. A lot of good friendly names. So any of those people are here to help you guys if you want to drop anything in the chat, email, call us out, whatever. Are we ready? I guess we'll get started. So our plan today, guys, things we're going to cover. What is our game plan? We're going to talk about our game plan, first of all. What should you do to kind of get started on your training journey and your IT journey, furthering your IT career? Then we're going to break down a couple different training categories. Let's talk about the free stuff first, right? Why not? Always going to start there. Then we'll move into some paid options. All the rage, the subscription-based models. We'll tell you some of our favorites. Let's talk certifications. Are they required? How do we get those? Do we need to have those? I think one of the most common questions that I saw on the RSVP page was, if I don't have experience, how do I show that I actually know what I'm talking about? So definitely stay tuned for the section on making your own project. Got some good examples and maybe a story someone can share on what they've done. And then after we learn everything, how do we market ourselves? How do we talk about what we know and make sure we're advertising those skills? So to jump in, let's come up with our game plan. This is often a cyclical process. So this is not a one and done, disclaimer. But I think the first most important step is, where do you want to go? You might not have just one destination in mind. You know, we were talking about Don's an RVer before you guys jumped in, and I'm sure he took a detour and took one path before he got to another, or maybe had a couple destinations in mind. So I think that's okay. I know I talked to a lot of people who are interested in maybe some data work and some development work, or front and back end. I think a lot of times in certain positions, certain teams, certain companies, a lot of those skills overlap. But what's the big dream job? What are those job descriptions that you see out there, job titles you see out there that you're like, heck yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be that person. I want to get to do that work all day. So figure out what that end goal is first. And then let's figure out what you need to get there. So step 2 is, what do you need to know that you might not already know? Are there specific softwares that are required? Are there technologies that they mention in a job description? Or you hear people talking about, or maybe even acronyms that would be helpful for you to even learn what they mean and have a little bit of context. Sometimes it's just the understanding of something and knowing what people are talking about. Dawn, jump in on me if I'm missing anything good here, but first we need to figure out the what. All right, then we get the what. Now let's go dive in and figure out how to find it. And this is really where we're going to dive in deeper as we keep going today. But find the right course for you, y'all, especially today. Thank you to the internet. There are so many awesome options. There's free stuff, like we said, there's stuff you can pay for. There's things that you can do when you want to. You don't have to go to college and be in class from this time to this time on this day, every day, right? You can kind of do stuff when you want to, when you're up and have insomnia late at night, or as you're binge watching something on Netflix. There's so much flexibility in learning and when you get to decide what you want to learn. Do you like self-paced classes where you can go as fast as you want to or as slow as you want to, if you're balancing work and a full-time job and family and all kinds of other responsibilities? Or do you like the structure of an instructor-led class? I'm one of those people. I don't hold myself accountable very well. My exercise plan and the number of day ones that I have reinforces that. So don't be one of those day one clubbers when it comes to your IT training. Come up with a good schedule, whether the course does it for you or if you do it for yourself. And then Dawn, I'm going to throw to you to talk about number 4. Why is this step so important, and do we think is maybe so often missed?
Okay. Yeah, just in my own experience and working with folks, there's so much to learn and there's so many options out there, and they're inexpensive a lot of times. The courses, your time is way more valuable than the price you actually put into the course. So it's so easy, so easy to enroll in whatever, a free course at Code Academy or whatever, or as we have Google Career Certificates. We're going to talk a little bit more later. You get started with something and it's so easy to get distracted by the other opportunity. So finding what you're going to do, deciding on it, and then having the tenacity to actually finish and get the certificate of completion for that course is huge and not to be taken lightly.
Agreed. I do think it's relevant to be able to speak on what you're currently doing. That in progress, in process is important. But here's what I'm done with, here's what I've accomplished shows a lot more. It shows that you have that dedication. It shows that you can follow through, which is another thing that employers are going to be looking for. So adds another skill to the box. But once you finish, you want to market that skill. So don't forget, as you're going, to update your resume with your skills. I think a lot of us forget to do that as we go, and then we think back and we're like, I know I did a lot of stuff. I don't remember all the stuff that I did. So as you're learning, as you're going, make a list of skills, make a list of the courses that you're in, where you're learning them from. Maybe there's some networking opportunities too with the courses you've taken. Were there chat opportunities? Did you make some friends online? Do you have an instructor who has some resources? Are there any groups you can join now that you have some new skills? So we'll go a little bit more into that as we go, but this is our rinse and repeat cycle that we recommend. If that course changes, that's okay. This is not you're going to do this one time in your life and be done. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned in my career meeting people. I think a lot of times we think step one starts when you're 18 and then we go through the end and we're done with it. But that's so not true anymore. I think my course in game plan has changed quite a few times over the last however many years since I've been out of school. So don't be afraid if you need to go back to step one, that's okay. But we think this is a good game plan to help you get to where you want to go. Everybody with me? Questions? We'll come back to some a little bit later as we go too. All right, so I might throw to Dawn again to cover a little bit of these free training resources, guys, but there's so much online that's free. Always recommend starting off, if you're interested, starting off with some free options. There's so much good stuff. There's more than we can list. So these are some of our top choices. Tried to cover a couple of different areas in IT. Don't feel like if something's not on here, it's not good, because that's not possible. But Dawn, what are some of your favorites on this list?
Yeah, sure. W3 Schools has tutorials for, I know, like Java, Python, and SQL, which is a query language for relational databases, and several other specific languages. I think C# is on there. Beg your pardon. But the neatest thing about W3 Schools is that it has a coding environment built into the website, so you don't need to install anything. So you'll be reading how to how to do a string function in SQL. Say, I want to pull off the first 5 characters of a name, and it'll say, try it here. And you click in that box, and it's actually a SQL interpreter where you can, get it wrong, get it right, and do any kind of coding that you want. And it does the same thing for Python. So I'm a big fan of that. From the content of the tutorials, they're clear, easy to follow, and then you can practice them right there on that website. YouTube is great. It takes you get what you pay for. So that free content takes some combing through to get good content, but it's out there. Code Academy has both free courses and subscription based, and they're very good. Coding Bat is a practice site, and it will tell you if you got the problem right or not. It'll actually look at your code to see if you satisfied the requirements of the assignment. HackerRank is more like almost like a challenge site, and it's got both tutorials and practice exercises that you move through and actually increase your rank. So that's a good thing to, if you can work through it, to put on your resume. But then there's just so many other courses, like on Microsoft's site. There's free training, self-paced, of course, that leads to almost all of their certifications. So it's really about focusing. But Khan Academy is good quality content, and many others. But if you're like me and you get somewhat attracted by the next shiny object to flash in front of your face, it can be good to go through something that's a little more structured, a little lengthier, that gets you to a completion status at the end. We can help with, they're called Google Career Certificates, and the 5 of them are listed there. Google started out with IT support, but they recently added those other 4. It's IT automation with Python. So if you wanted to learn Python, they start out with a crash course. But that's a little more regimented. It's administered through a company called Coursera, which is a large provider, and it lets you set weekly goals. They expect about 10 hours a week, so it kind of helps keep you somewhat on track. And then
An
I'm
idea,
gonna.
Dawn, an idea on time frame. I think, did they
Yeah.
say roughly 6-ish months?
It's 4 to 6 months, depending on the program, 10 hours a week. But um, if you're consider yourself IT savvy, you'd probably get through one that interests you a little bit faster than that. And then Reimagine, that's on the University of Arkansas's website. For if you qualify, it's free training. Normally, most of it's through a provider called Ed2Go, which is also a very structured program that you move through and get a certificate of completion. And then, of course, we've got Rescale here, and there's many others. If you are Googling IT training, you're probably like me. You're getting pelted with advertising on Google and especially on YouTube. So there are, if you've already got a degree and maybe it's not in a technical field, you can get a credit bearing graduate certificate that's somewhat of a shortcut to a graduate level check in your resume and useful knowledge. You could get an actual master's degree, and then you'll see there are certificate programs from all the major universities. It seems like, I mean, Harvard, MIT, you name it, Cornell, in different areas, and those are structured often, but they're not necessarily free. So I'll
I think we're
stop
going to get
talking
into
about
those.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to get into those in a little bit. Yeah, so the Reimagine and the Rescale Arkansas program, to dive a little bit deeper into those, these are for maybe career changers, people who don't know much at all about IT, want to start off from the beginning in that good structured type program. We're a little biased to the Rescale Arkansas program because we help facilitate this. A lot of you guys may be here from the Rescale Arkansas program. Definitely may recognize Jenny. She's above me on my screen. She is one of the main program managers of the Rescale Arkansas program on our team. And this program, like I said, was designed for people, maybe you're unemployed, maybe you found yourself unemployed the last couple of years, or maybe you feel underemployed and want to reskill, upskill, learn some more IT skills, whether it's for your current job or to find a new one. So we cover courses in IT, and recently we've added advanced manufacturing. Not the main purpose of our talk today, but wanted to throw that in there as well. So there's courses in CompTIA Plus, not necessarily a certification course, but a beginner to the certification course. Some web development classes, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java. Some of those have an intro and an intermediate. We've got some database and analytics courses, the SQL, Python. These are a course where we definitely recommend the skills are that you kind of start off with. Also some networking, advanced wireless networking classes, and then a lot of good stuff on security as well. So lots of good options. Some of those are self-paced. Some of those are instructor-led. So you'll kind of have a structured 6-week course, I think, that you work through with a classroom and somebody there available for you to ask questions to. I know that a lot of these names have gone through those courses. So if you've finished one, you're interested in another, let us know. Jenny can help you pick out the next best course. Or if you haven't finished, we encourage you to finish that course, and maybe there's something else available out there that would be of interest for you to do next. Once again, also got to mention the manufacturing classes here. If you know anybody, or maybe you are thinking, hey, I really like parts of IT, but I don't know that I just want to sit in front of a computer all day, or I might want a little bit more hands-on. From what I'm learning from our pro Jenny, the programmable logic controllers, the PLC career field may be of interest to you. Kind of combines a little bit of a physical touch, hardware, actually programming real things. So it could be a cool balance you might not have thought of before. All right, I think Dawn was leading us into the paid training, and I learned a lot about this recently. I'll share what I know, and then we'll throw back to Dawn to dive deeper. But a lot of colleges, whether or not you are a student, they have access to a lot of great online training. Dawn mentioned Ed2Go. If you're part of the Rescale program, you've heard that before. That's the portal, the training platform that all those courses are offered through. And just a couple of the popular colleges that we work with, these universities we've got listed: U of A in Fayetteville, and then UCA in Conway. These are virtual, guys. You don't have to be at the campus. You don't have to be in a specific location to take these. And a lot of them, again, some are self-paced, some are instructor-led, some are shorter, some are longer from what I've seen. There's a couple certificate programs. I've seen like a full stack certificate, a back-end certificate, web developer certificate, things like that. And I also like that they have a name attached to them. A lot of people in the state are going to know the U of A. They're going to know UCA. Sometimes that carries a little bit more weight than saying you did a Code Academy class. Not saying that that's not good, but kind of depends on where you're at and really what you're targeting. The other thing I loved as I was doing some research is that there are some great funding options available. Single moms, military, depending on what your income level is. I mean, there was a whole page of all these different options of here's how we can help you with funding if you're interested in these programs. They're definitely cheaper than a college degree, but cost more than what we were showing earlier. Dawn, what's your experience with some of these? Have you gotten to teach any of these types of courses, or?
Well, I'm a little biased. I was the director at the Arkansas Coding Academy at UCA for a couple of years, and that's instructor-led, generally full stack development, but they're the new director, Allison Wish, is moving them into different areas. So that's good. But U of A Global Campus, the workforce page there at a University of Arkansas Global Campus, has other virtual delivery instructor-led courses that are very robust, and that's generally going to be the best bang for the buck. The most affordable is something that's teaming with a university, but that's where you get the structure. So if you're like Kristen and me, having that instructor in the regular meeting times and whatnot adds a lot of value. And I wanted to add a plug for a funding source called WIOA. It's Workforce Innovation and Opportunity, WIOA, I believe.
WIOA.
WIOA.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Tomato. Anyway, it's a funding source, and it'll often be a full ride to these types of workforce development courses. And then again, if you've already got a bachelor's degree by chance, there are graduate certificates that can often they're like 5 master's courses, and you get the certificate, and it's less than half the time that it would take to get an actual master's degree. And if you're not enrolled in a degree granting IT program, it might be something to look into. There are a lot of opportunities out there in internships, but you need to be enrolled in good standing in some sort of IT program.
The other thing I liked as I was flipping through some of these catalogs was the range of courses. Sometimes it's harder to find the UI UX training that we're seeing is a lot more popular, and we've got a couple options I think that we've touched on for that. And I think the U of A and maybe UCA both had a course on that. I think there was even non-IT topics if you want to go there, but really a good broad range of different classes that you can take. So by the way, we're going to send this slide deck out, and there's lots of good hyperlinks in here, so you guys can click through and get to some of this stuff quick without having to do too much Googling. All right, so the new buzzword in everyone's revenue model is subscriptions. Raise your hand if you probably have too many subscriptions that you should cancel because you don't actually watch all of those services. But seriously, to think about, what would it be worth? I think about my budget every month. Do I actually watch enough of Apple TV, or would it be worth me getting a subscription to Pluralsight or one of these, training providers? So here's some of our top choices. a lot of these are, I mean, they're all really kind of different. Sometimes you've got an official program that you're working through. The Udacity Nano degree is definitely more structured, more heavily involved. LinkedIn Learning has some very small classes that you can take. You may have heard of lynda.com. Coursera was one we mentioned. They have those Google Career Certificates, and they partner with a lot of large companies and universities. IBM was a big one. They've got IBM certificates, Salesforce certificates. If you know specifically that you need a technology or working, with this platform, that might be a good one to check out. The name recognition sometimes is important and necessary in certain industries, certain areas. Data Camp is a good one, popular one that we liked over at Dillard's for all things data for our data analyst guys. Sometimes it gives you access to these tools that are harder to get if you're not in school or at an employer. What else? Pluralsight, Dawn, I know that's a very popular one. I don't have as much experience with that one, but that one seems to cover the gambit again from software, hardware to data stuff.
Sure. The certificate of completion from that isn't quite like a certification, but it would get you the information you need, the knowledge you need to get through that technical interview for sure. And it's of these, Pluralsight and LinkedIn Learning are really broad catalogs, particularly LinkedIn Learning. It covers in-depth technologies, but also soft skills and like math, statistics, those sort of things that you won't necessarily find on Pluralsight. So I've got access. I've got a subscription to Pluralsight and LinkedIn Learning. When I want to brush up on something, I'll go to one of those two. For good content, I've never been disappointed, as opposed to you pull up something on YouTube and you get 5 minutes into it, and that's 5 minutes of your life you'll never get back. But these are worth the $20 a month or so that you're paying for them.
Yeah, what I liked about LinkedIn Learning was a lot of times based on the jobs you're searching for and saving, based on the skills on your profile, it does a lot of good smarts behind the scenes, and it says, this is what you're looking for, this is what you don't know, or this is what you do know, what training can we advertise for you to kind of fill in the gaps. When I checked it out last night, I could tell it was definitely targeted training, which was cool because you're not wasting as much time searching through stuff or looking at bad stuff or whatever. Yeah, that Udacity Nano degree is definitely on the more expensive side. This is one that I know we've had, I think, a couple of employer partners work with us to help provide that for people. So that might be, something later down the road or something you might want to bring up to an employer, see if they'd be interested in helping you with that. But yeah, definitely some good tips. I like the LinkedIn one. Does anybody know, does it automatically add stuff to your profile and say you completed? I feel like it does. I feel like it says, hey, Dawn,
you can choose it. Yeah, you can choose to add the course completion to your profile or not.
Cool. Yeah, makes it super easy. All right, how we going? We got questions as we're moving along? Y'all are being quiet. Throw them out there in the chat if you got them, and we'll come back at the end. So the $1 million question, I think sometimes is, let's talk about certifications. Do I need this? Do I have to have this? And I think my general answer is it depends on a lot of factors. Dawn, what's your general answer to that question?
Yeah, we're both at the Coding Academy and here at ACDS, work a lot with local employers, and with a few exceptions, we have employers that contractually have to have employees that are either, say, Security Plus certified or A+ certified, those sort of things. But generally, none of your software development, like maybe Java or Microsoft Power BI, you don't have to have that to get hired, but it never hurts. It's always a distinguisher. If they're looking at two folks with similar resumes, and one of you for a Java programming job, one of you's got the Oracle Java certification, the other one doesn't, it's a distinguisher.
Sure.
It makes it easy to choose between people. So that's what I would, if you want to get the information so that you can get through that technical interview and impress the employer, and you want your resume to stand out, it cannot hurt to get the certification.
I definitely think in the hardware area, A+ computer repair, and then in the security area, a little bit more of those certifications are often sought after. Where I worked before, I worked at Dillard's, and pretty much there were only in the hardware repair, because of safety, was a certification required. Really, everywhere else, if it was something that you needed, then the company paid for. So that's your best deal if you can go for that. If they need it, hopefully they'll help pay for it for you. But like Don said, it's a great differentiator. And a lot of times, some of the beginner courses and training you can find online for free or through a lot of these vendors. A lot of times this stuff is specific. So it's, connected to the vendor. It's Microsoft or Oracle or Cisco or IBM. And so that sometimes depends on the employer. Which vendor really do they do a lot of their business with? So some employers may look for, the specific certification, and others are on the other end of the spectrum. And that's only because that's more often the vendor that they work with. Dawn, we did have a question specifically about cloud certifications, and I don't know as much there. Do you think there is a preferred cloud certification, or why those might be helpful?
Sure. AWS has about 75% of the market. And in Arkansas, at least, Azure, Microsoft Azure, would be next. There aren't a whole lot of people that are asking for Google Cloud Platform, but they all start with a AWS Solutions Associate level. They all have an associate level certification that is really just a speed tour of the platform that lets you know what the file storage mechanism is, what the costing looks like for that platform. And that if you're going to interview at an AWS shop and you've got that lingo and that certification, it cannot help. But they all have foundational level certifications that you start with. You just go to the provider and there'll be a recommended learning path for you.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's nice, is a lot of times when you go to these websites, you'll see first you need to do this, then you need to do this. I noticed that on Cisco's site, they kind of lay out and make it almost like prerequisites for the next level. Which fields require this? I'm not aware, if anybody knows about requiring cloud certifications. I think oftentimes that's more of a preferred or something that you can get. Do we know if, I know we were advertising some AWS training assistance before. Ashley, do you know from your experience if that's often required?
When you talk about required, that makes me think, those minimum requirements on job postings. And so often we've been seeing recently, they'll say, a degree, work experience, or a certification. So just to kind of talk up, certifications in general, but, cloud, a lot of the banks, I feel like I see a lot of banks hiring with interest in, either Azure or AWS, but, I still think at the end of the day, there's not a hard requirement within that one. I see more requirement, kind of like Dawn said, in the cyber IT security. They always want your Cisco's, your CompTIA, if you're a government contractor, they want your ethical hacker certification.
I agree. I've seen more of it in the security, whether physical or computer security space. LaShawn, hope that helps you a little bit. All right. I think we have come to the part where we talk about, hey, let's make our own training. And I love this idea. A lot of times we coach people, who might not have work experience, on creating a project section on your resume. Here are some of the projects you did in school, maybe a capstone class or in some of your big classes and big projects. But what if you don't have that? What if you don't have the class project or class experience? And Ashley has some great ideas and examples of how you can create your own.
Well, yeah, and Kristen, Dawn, y'all have done such a great job going through resources. And, I just want to make one more pitch. I am very cost conscious. Some people may call me cheap. Before you go out and pay for any type of training, check out some of the free resources that Kristen and Dawn referenced. If you need help, stumbling through or navigating through the Google career certificates, reach out to our talent team at ACDS. We're more than happy to help. So before you get your credit card out, talk to us, see what we can help with. All right, so kind of talking about, again, why are we doing all this self-learning? And how are we going to present that in an interview or on our resume to ultimately get that promotion or job offer? So we look at projects. Projects, you can see, a good project really is going to highlight your interest and your passion. And, I think I look at, and actually I think they're on the call, had an individual, he created an app for fun to basically track, to calculate the tennis matches with his brother for bragging rights at the end of the year. And, it was a creative example, and he was able to speak to the different forms and how he connected it to a visualization tool. But look at your everyday life, or even look at your current business. So even if you're in the, let's say, the restaurant industry, look at how they're using their scheduling tool. Is there an app out there that you could propose to your leadership and customize that would solve a real business solution? I think what employers love to hear in an interview is, how do you problem solve? How do you think outside of the box? And then how do you use the technologies that you have learned, in that solution? Or maybe it's a project that you did a long time ago. Maybe it was a capstone at school, but it was 5 years ago. And, that's kind of hard to speak to and remember all of the details. An idea would be, maybe you do another upgrade, do a version 2 release, use some of the technologies that you've recently learned and add that into it.
I can guarantee you'll do it differently. Don't let me go back and look at old code. I will laugh of embarrassment.
Yeah, you just want to be able to, in the interview, showcase what this project was. Why did you pick it? What technologies did you use? And really you want to showcase that it was fun for you and you like this. Employers want to see that passion and that drive to show initiative. Another idea is even reaching out to a local nonprofit. A nonprofit is not going to turn down free labor. Do you think they can afford a full-time IT person? No. Do you think they know about all these cool CRM tools and, automated email blasts and analytics, Google Analytics that can tell them what type of social post performs best on what days and when and why? So help them by offering some of your expertise on, to help them in what their goals are. You can even kind of put on a project management hat on doing like a needs analysis, on get an inventory of what they're currently doing and what tools they're using, and what's the most manual process that your team has to use or go through, and see how you can make it better, more efficient, a better user experience. So Give Camp, let me see if I have the link. Give Camp is a really awesome nonprofit that essentially helps other nonprofits. It started by, I think, a developer down in Dallas from Microsoft, and has really evolved into local areas have their own Give Camp, to where tech professionals donate their time to help charities. Maybe it's build a new website. Maybe it is put together a, MailChimp email distribution list. Again, using technology to help them make their business more efficient and effective. Northwest Arkansas actually just had their Give Camp last week, 2 weeks ago. Just curious, is there anyone on the call that attended? No? So in
Hey,
general,
actually, I attended. This is Luke.
Hi, Luke.
Hey,
What was it like?
oh, it was pretty great. So there were, I think, 5 nonprofits that they worked with over the course of that weekend. And mine was a group that was helping people celebrate Christmas who weren't going to have the typical, that maybe needed help to have a better Christmas. And so my group's job was to really build up their website and do that. So I have a writing background, and that was the thing that I was most helpful with, but I know that they really had a lot of people working with that. And I know that a lot of the people in my group were people that had worked with WordPress. And so it was really cool to see them, how they did that. And it was also great to network too. I made sure to hook up with the people that definitely had some experience already.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke, for jumping in. Don't you hate when you get called on in class, you're like dodging it, like, oh no, is it me? Is it me? But thank you for sharing your experience.
Yeah, no problem.
Kristen, anything else to touch on?
I like the example of if you're currently working and there's something you can make better. Ashley probably hates me because I do that all day long, all of the time. So don't annoy your boss with it. But maybe there's a process that you can find, and you can add a Python script in to make a spreadsheet go away. Or if somebody has to manually pull a report or something, you can take that process away. Then you can include that on your resume. It was real experience. You're getting some experience, and you're making an impact. You're doing something that somebody needed or could have used anyway. The other idea I like is advertise your skills. Throw it out there on social media, on LinkedIn, or on, do people still have Facebook? I don't. Whatever social platform that you're on, throw it out there and see if anybody's like, yeah, I really need a website for my so-and-so business. Can you help me? Or I've heard of people just doing weird, fun stuff at home, programming a Raspberry Pi to raise and lower their blinds. Whatever, think about doing those things that you might just kind of have fun to do, and figure out how you can use it to better yourself and maybe even help on your job search. I think when I talk to candidates, and I know that people are spending their time doing something with technology, writing code, instead of vegging out on the couch in front of the phone and the computer and the TV, right? How many screens can we have in a row? Instead of playing that game, you're actively making and creating something, then hey, I'm going to give that candidate the heads up. So yeah, love this idea. Here's a few recommendations for you, but get out there, see what you can find to do. Awesome.
Yeah, posting those projects on GitHub is almost expected to have a GitHub account. GitHub is a document and software management. It's the whole universe. If you're a developer, you can't get away from it. But if by chance you're learning Python and you've got a Jupyter notebook or a Python script that you want to be able to share with the employer, having it out there on GitHub lets them check it out. Out of that pile of resumes, you never know, they may go to your GitHub repo and check out what you've been working on. And I did want to answer Austin's question, or at least get Ashley to that. It looks like folks are going back to work, but as we hopefully turn the corner on COVID, new hires, I think they want generally they want you in the office. There's still some remote work out there, but folks are getting back into the office. And then right above that, I wanted to point this out to Ashley. Do you recommend putting individual coursework on a resume, or if you've got the degree, the diploma, is that good enough? Lolita asked that question a little while ago.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and we can come back to it at the end if we need to. But Lolita, I think it depends. If your degree program or if your degree is relevant and kind of self-explanatory to the area that you're working in, then those guys probably know what classes you took. If it's totally different and you took some electives that you think are relevant, maybe you can call those out. Or if you had classes you just really enjoyed and want to call those out specifically. I've often seen people do both. On my resume, I included my degree and then relevant courses. I think sometimes it depends on how long you've been out of school. You don't want to seem like you're putting too much emphasis on school if it was 20 years ago. Is it still as relevant? How outdated is it? What have you done in the meantime? But at the same time, if you did go to school and you have a relevant degree and maybe you have some work history that's not as relevant and you want to highlight, hey, I took these classes, I know these skills, then yeah, throw them in there and include those as well. So depends on how much space you've got that you can play with. You don't want to list your whole whatever it was transcript. Please don't do that. Nobody wants to look at all that and see everything. But yeah, highlight some favorite courses if it's relevant and you got the space. Ashley, anything to add right now? Cool. All right. Well, last topic, guys. And I thought of one other thing as we were talking about creating projects. What if we talked a lot about analytics and development, but what about help desk type positions? I hear a lot of people tell me, the family fix-it guy, everybody calls me. Start documenting that stuff. Those are all little individual projects. Start documenting that, and that can give you something good to include on your resume. You can come up with a creative name if you want to, but talk about how many issues you fixed, resolved X number of family and friends, hardware, software issues, and learned these tools. And so think about how you can leverage that. And once again, stuff you might already be doing that you can leverage too. So good lead into marketing. How do we market those skills? And really want to make sure that we're not forgetting to do this. So as we said earlier, as you go, include it. I've heard of people keeping a spreadsheet with all their skills. You already might have it on your resume. You may just want to throw it on your resume. Don't forget LinkedIn, everybody. The skills section on LinkedIn is often searched by recruiters, and sometimes they'll look for a specific skill, and if you pop up, then you'll be in like a good email blast and they'll send you a new opportunity. I think you may be limited on a total number of skills on LinkedIn. So you may need to add, subtract, kind of play around with what you think the right skills are to include. We can help you with that if needed. But I think two big places on your resume, we want to be sure we're including what you've learned. Obviously, we just covered it, that skills section on your resume. And then number two, and I think we get the most questions about this, is your education and training section. So we've got a couple of examples shown here. If you've taken a Code Academy class, this person or this example, we've got their high school experience and then their Code Academy experience. So here was the career path. Here were some of the languages they learned, technologies, and then a time frame. I love the time frame for sure. It shows how relevant that it was. And it's another way to hold yourself accountable to complete it. Then here's another one. These are some of our workforce development courses through the University of Arkansas. I like to be sure, and I like how this one lists professional and workforce development. You never want to mislead if you're taking some of these courses. We don't want people to think that you were enrolled in a bachelor's degree program on campus. So you want to be sure to accurately represent the courses that you took. But this includes the certificate of completion was in this particular PC security course, which I think is a Rescale course. So this is a good copy paste if you're a reskiller. And then courseware topics. Talk about what you learned. Once again, these keywords, these buzzwords are things people are going to be looking for. Back to Lena's question, this helps explain what that course was actually about. So this is a great scenario of when that is relevant. I don't know what was in that PC security class, and I'm probably as a recruiter or manager not going to go look it up and try to find the syllabus. So when you give me the good relevant topics, malware, VPN, security threats and vulnerabilities, I know those things. And now I know that you specifically know them as opposed to assuming, what you may or may not have learned in that course. All right, Ashley, what else? Anything else to add on marketing?
One more thing similar to a project, but it's kind of fun, hackathons or even coding challenges related to a project, not the same, but I think it also is kind of a networking opportunity. You can put that on a resume, helps on the keyword searchability. And I think Jolt Hackathon, I'll add in the chat, I think just closed, but remember for next October, if that's of interest.
Awesome. All right, guys, I think that brings us to the end. So we'll go back. I know we had a couple other questions on anything. I know with some were on training and some were just on general marketing, your skills. But before we do that, Dawn, do you have any other last minute thoughts, topics as someone who's been in the training industry for a while now?
Well, more just philosophically, you got to be a lifelong learner. This career field moves so quickly that you virtually always have to have something in front of you. It can be as short as a LinkedIn learning course, or as grand as a degree program, but always have something in your future that you're working towards, so that you can show that employer that you are a lifelong learner, and you are always hungry to learn more and more and more.
Agreed. A lot of the technologies that I think are so popular right now didn't even exist when a lot of us started in our careers. And so if we stopped learning, then a lot of opportunities would stop. And we always talked about at Dillard's, you never want your doctor to stop learning, and so we don't want that in IT either. We can't get better. We can't keep learning new things and making cool new things if we don't learn the skills. So 100% agree. I love it. All right, y'all, we've got a lot of good questions. So the first one is an easy one. Austin asked, will this be available to refer to later? 100%. We will download this. It'll be a PDF with all the good clickable links. We'll have the video recording, so we'll send all of that out to everybody. And we'll have it, included on our website as well, YouTube page, so you can get back to it anytime. All right, Richard asked, what about anything with mobile? Dawn, any good thoughts on mobile development training resources?
No, that all the sources that we spelled out generally will have mobile development as well as traditional web, and there are companies in Arkansas that really specialize in mobile development, mobile application development. I'm thinking of one in particular, that educational services company. Lonnie?
Well, I'll just mention that our day in the life that's coming up Thursday next week is going to focus on First Orion, and they've done a tremendous amount, as you know, of mobile application development in both Android and iOS. So, we
spamware.
Some of that. Yep.
I know Ionic was a big platform. I'm not sure of what their training is. That might be one that you can check out, and I'll try to put on my list to do the same and see if we can find anything else out. I'm assuming your question was specifically about mobile development, by the way. The other route I thought was if the platforms are available to be trained on mobile. I wasn't sure if you were going that route. I think most of these, a lot of this stuff, you definitely want to be at the computer, the keyboard, but I have seen there are some mobile apps. If you're, waiting in the doctor's office and want to do something better than scroll TikTok, that might be something cool that you can do. There's some development training apps as well. All right, what else we got? So GitHub is your personal portfolio, kind of, yeah. It's your personal coding portfolio, really. It's a place for you to upload all of the code you've written, so other people can see it. What code you've done, how large the projects are, what technologies you used, how you integrated them, all that kind of stuff. Is it necessary to build your personal website? Ashley, what do you think on that one?
Doesn't hurt. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, in an ideal state, I still think it would probably sell better in an interview if you're actually solving a business problem. However, I'd say do both.
Yeah, if you can show folks that you know the technology, say you're using Angular on your own website, it lets you. It gives you something to talk to and to demonstrate, and they can see that you actually can code something up. But that's really if you're going for a web development job. So, if you're going for data analyst, the fact that you can generate your own website maybe isn't as important.
Yeah, I think it's a really good low risk way to get some real practice.
And
play with what things are like in the real world. And to Dawn's point, probably worth it if you're interested in a dev job.
Angular is a JavaScript framework that lets you, when you have a website and you don't have to refresh the entire page, but portions of it will anyway, it's a web development JavaScript framework that a lot of folks are using for single page applications.
Awesome. All right, guys, well, we're right at about time. I think I saw a couple other questions. Richard, I saw your specifics on the mobile technologies. Good questions. I haven't specifically dug into any of those. Maybe Dawn and I can see what some of our resources that we would recommend or that we like the most have on those topics. But I definitely recommend searching those on the ones we listed. Pluralsight, LinkedIn Learning, starting off with some of those. Some of the free resources as well, doing some searching on those topics and see what you can find. And guys, we're here. Somebody asked if we offer LinkedIn profile optimization. Maybe not as well as somebody else, but we can talk you through it. We can talk you through what we've learned and what we know, or other interviewing and resume and training tips and advice. We've been there and we want to help you get to where you want to go. So any of these resources online, call us, beep us if you want to reach us. If anybody gets that old resource, might be a niche group. Ashley's laughing. All right. So excited that you all were here. We really appreciate it. We'll send everything out, and feel free to stick around if you have other questions or want to chat. But thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dawn, Ashley, everybody, for your time too.